Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
There's a strong bond between those who serve in the military and those who serve our country behind the wheel of a truck. We spoke with two drivers recently who have tribute trucks to honor service members and the fallen. The Veterans Community Project started out with one campus in Kansas City, Missouri, but like any successful organization, it's growing, and that means more help for veterans across the country. We look at one of the VCP's newest campuses in Longmont, Colorado, with the help of Jennifer Seybold, its executive director. Then we catch up with several OOIDA employees who have a special connection to the military. And finally, across the country, local governments had ballot issues dealing with transportation issues. Scott Thompson will get a rundown of the results from our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We begin with two new pieces of legislation that would make sure truck drivers are paid for working overtime. It's called the Guaranteed Overtime for Truckers, or GOT Truckers Act. There's a Senate version introduced by Senators Alex Padilla of California and Ed Markey of Massachusetts. And there's also a House version introduced by Representatives Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey and Mark Decano of California. Both bills seek to repeal the motor carrier provision of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, which excludes many truckers from overtime protections enjoyed by other workers. The effort has the support of the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Here's the association's Director of Legislative Affairs, Bryce Mungen.
So way back when the Fair Labor Standards Act was enacted, they exempted truck drivers from the law's guaranteed overtime requirement. And the thinking back then, back in the 1930s was we don't want drivers working too many hours to try and get overtime. But a lot has changed. Obviously, deregulation, electronic tracking down to the second. And so now the exemption really just serves the purpose of treating drivers differently than all other workers and devaluing their time. So the legislation would do is eliminate that exemption and make sure that drivers are finally paid for overtime when they're working over 40 hours in a week.
A U.S. DOT supply chain report from early 2022 highlighted the high turnover rates and compensation issues that plague the trucking industry. The report made a number of recommendations, one of which was calling on Congress to do exactly what the GOT Truckers Act wants to do. Should it pass into law, Mungen believes it would have ripple effects across the industry.
There's a lot of reasons that we're supporting it, but one of the things that's important to highlight is we're supporting this because we represent all truck drivers, including employee drivers. And so that's who this legislation would most directly benefit, because if you're an employee and you're working over 40 hours a week, generally speaking, if you're not a trucker or any other exempted employees, you get paid overtime. So the purpose behind this is to make sure that drivers get overtime if they're working 40 hours a week, but it's also more importantly to make sure that drivers' time and all of the hours they work are fully valued and respected. One of the pushback, one of the reasons some people have pushed back on this, and one of the questions that we've heard is, well, won't carriers just rework rates, and will drivers really get paid overtime? And certainly we think that there's a chance drivers will get paid overtime. But the bottom line is this will force everyone else in the supply chain to finally value a driver's time. They don't get just to use it up for free when the driver is waiting to be loaded or unloaded.
In addition to OOIDA, the GOT Truckers Act also has the support of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the Truck Safety Coalition, and the Institute for Safer Trucking. To get your representatives in Washington, D.C. on board, check out fightingfortruckers.com. The Energy Information Administration is out with its latest short-term energy outlook, and the forecast calls for higher diesel prices before the year is over. By the end of 2023, EIA predicts the national average for a gallon of diesel to be $4.46, up about 10 cents compared to the agency's latest weekly report. But the tide may very well turn in early 2024, when EIA expects the average to dip to $4.23 a gallon. Also of note, the agency projections see global fuel production increasing by 1 million barrels per day next year, alongside a slight decline in global oil inventories due to ongoing OPEC Plus production cuts, offsetting non-OPEC production growth. As a reminder, these are just forecasts. EIA emphasizes that the risk of supply disruptions and price volatility are heightened right now due to the potential for conflict in the Middle East. Georgia's fuel tax holiday will go on for at least a few more weeks. The current suspension of state fuel taxes was set to expire this weekend, but Governor Brian Kemp this week issued another executive order extending it through November 29th. It applies to both gas and diesel. Georgia normally collects a 35-cent diesel tax. Governor Kemp has said the declaration is necessary to reduce the impact of 40-year high negative economic conditions. In terms of the International Fuel Tax Agreement, all miles traveled in Georgia through November 29th should be reported as non-IFTA miles. Remember, though, if you buy that tax-free fuel in Georgia and run in states that have not waived IFTA, you will be on the hook for those miles on your quarterly filings. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association is using a recent crash in Utah as a teaching opportunity. OOIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh was interviewed by 2 News in Salt Lake City about this month's fiery crash in Tooele. That was caught on camera. Nearly a dozen people were hurt when a truck hauling gravel lost control and slammed into traffic. While the cause of that crash is still under investigation, its 26-year-old driver told authorities he lost control of his brakes. Pugh told 2 News he believes training may have played a role as well.
We train pilots and we train most other people in other industries on what to do and how to handle things when they go wrong. And the problem in trucking is we don't do that.
2 News also interviewed a truck driver who's familiar with the area where the crash happened. He believes the gravel truck driver may have been riding his brakes a bit more than he should have, that his brakes got so hot they just stopped working. Pugh said that ultimately that driver is the one who will be held accountable, even though he may have been put in a position he wasn't ready for.
They're not taught. Nobody's helping them. And unfortunately, bad things happen. And the only person held accountable for it is the person behind the wheel.
No word yet on any charges related to the crash, which damaged 33 vehicles and injured 11 people, including the gravel truck driver, who is expected to recover. The injuries also included 1 victim who was last listed in critical condition. The stage is set for the Women of Trucking Advisory Board's last meeting. It's scheduled for Monday, November 13th, during which the 6-member Final Report Committee will make its final recommendations to Administrator of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Robin Hutchison, who is expected to attend. The Women of Trucking Advisory Board was established to review and report on policies that provide education, training, mentorship, and outreach to women in the trucking industry. It was also tasked with coming up with ways to recruit more women to trucking careers and keep them there. The group's final report will be submitted to FMCSA. The agency will then have 1 year to deliver its own report to Congress detailing the findings of the board, along with any actions taken by the administrator to adopt the recommendations or an explanation of the reasons for not adopting them. And finally, somewhat related, the winner of the Women in Trucking Association's 2023 Influential Woman in Trucking Award has been announced. It's Shelley Simpson, president of J.B. Hunt Transport Services. Simpson has served in a number of executive leadership roles with the company over her 28-year career. Before being named president by the company's board of directors last summer, Simpson served as chief commercial officer and executive vice president of People and Human Resources. The Influential Woman in Trucking Award recognizes the achievements of female role models and trailblazers in the trucking industry. Simpson was one of 3 finalists for this year's award. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Next, we'll speak with 2 drivers who have tribute trucks to honor service members and the fallen. And we'll hear about the Veteran Community Project's newest campus in Longmont, Colorado. We'll be back in just a moment with more of the Truckers for Troops Telethon. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. More miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Welcome back to Landline Now and the annual Truckers for Troops telethon, an effort to raise money to send care packages to our troops overseas and to support homeless veterans through the Veterans Community Project.
Just want to say thanks for all the troops and our veterans for all their sacrifices that they make to keep everybody safe.
We are very blessed to have them in our lives.
Welcome back. There are many similarities between trucking and the military. Fritz Littlefield dedicated his 2006 Peterbilt 379 to the fallen, prisoners of war, and missing in action service members. I caught up with him recently at the Guilty by Association truck show to talk about his truck.
What I did was we did the inside with the American flag on top. We did the POW MIA on the sides, and we did the Statue of Liberty, which is our freedom. So we did all that. We did the flag up on the front to match the interior. On the inside, on the back wall, is a POW flag, an American eagle on the blanket. So as we go around it, all these red lights actually stand for the MIA. So the skulls are the MIAs. Then I got my little buddy. Basically, it's what it is. We did something new for this show, the Vietnam Wall. Nobody has that in their truck. So basically, we got our soldiers down here we kneel for the fallen. We got the boots for the MIA, then we have our soldiers. So with all the skulls and everything, as they find the MIAs, I pull a skull off or a POW. Then we come over here, we got our American flag, and we got more skulls. We got a lot of skulls on here right now. And then you get a better view of the Statue of Liberty, the eagle, the flag. So it's a lot of work, but for what it stands for, it's worth it.
How does it feel when you do get news of a POW or MIA and you take one of those skulls off?
It's awesome. We did Walcott this year. I had one of the judges' brother was MIA from Vietnam War. A week after that day, he found out his brother's coming home next week. But right now, there's, I don't know how many, but I can show you what the basic statistics is right now. This is for what's on the Vietnam Wall. Here is all the states of POWs, MIAs. This is different countries that they're missing in. This here, right here, is the state of Missouri. So, well, there's casualties from Missouri. So, these are all the names of the state of Missouri. I think there was 1,423. Yeah, we looked at it earlier today. There was 1,423 missing from the state of Missouri. And that's what this is, the state of Missouri. So you figure that through the country, there's quite a few. But eventually, everybody's going to be found, we hope. My grandfather was MIA way back in who knows what war. And my great-grandfather was POW. So, and this goes to them. Then all my brothers are all veterans. So this is for them. And everybody else. That's basically why I do it. And Easy Pete, I had them. They're the ones that installed this. Then I had Robert Thomas James, which is another company that I use. And they actually did the 3 pieces. So they did the windshield covers. So, and I'm proud of them. I'm glad they did. That's basically the story on the truck.
What was your reaction when you first saw the truck all completed?
I'm the one that did it. It's not my reaction because I know what it is. Basically, it's the general public. Is why I did it. Is for the public so they know, because they hear this, they hear that. We actually do the statistics on it. And yeah, I can't wait to take another one off.
What's the reaction of people when you do usually give them a tour and talk about it?
Basically, wow. That's what we get out of it. Because, well, the wall up here, it's a debut on it. This is the first show it's been in. So, and a lot of people don't know what it is, but once you explain it to them, it's like, holy, yeah. So yeah, they all appreciate it. A lot of the older veteran drivers, they know what it is because, like I said a little bit ago, anybody can do a wrap truck.
Yeah.
There's so many wrap trucks out here that this one's not.
You've got a lot of heart in this.
Yep. So do a lot of people. But it's the way she goes.
That was Fritz Littlefield talking about his 2006 Peterbilt 379 that he dedicated to the fallen, prisoners of war, and missing in action service members. Steve Harden also showed his tribute truck at GBATS to honor all those who have served.
I haven't served in the military, but I got a lot of family and friends that have. And it's just a tribute truck to everybody that has served, will serve, never made it back from serving. You know, it's just my way of showing my appreciation to every man, woman that's done their sacrifices so that I can do what I need to do and want to do. My dad was National Guard. I have a cousin that was Marine, lots of family members in the Army. One of my closest friends, he was in the Army. He drives truck, same company too. It's just, they don't get enough recognition, enough respect. It's just my way of showing it.
When did you get into trucking?
2006, when I first started. I just love to drive. Mom always said if it's got a motor and a way to control it, I can handle it. You know, I was running my grandma's pontoon back when I was, 4 or 5 years old, out in the lake. And got better docking than anybody else could. So if it's got wheels, motors, I want to drive it or fly it.
When did you get this truck?
Coincidentally enough, I was supposed to go pick it up 9/11 of 2019. Went down there and they didn't have all the paperwork ready. So I picked it up 9/12. It only had 1,200 miles on it. Now I've got about 460 on it.
Now, it's a radio show, so obviously our listeners can't see it. But can you describe what it looks like?
It's a 2020 white W9. It's got a flag on the side of it. It says never forgotten. Got 6 branches of the military: the Navy, Army, Coast Guard, Marines, Air Force, National Guard. I've got the Wounded Warrior Projects on the doors, the POW stickers on it. I've got a approximately 4 foot tall soldier kneeling with angel wings with his rifle. I do have the soldier cross on both sides of the hood. Like I said, just a dedication truck to everybody. It's served, will serve. It's my way of showing my appreciation. Eventually, I'm going to have all my lights dual rev to where when I'm parked, I can turn them to purple. Kind of represent the Purple Heart for all the wounded soldiers and all that stuff. I've always been a big supporter of the military, and they need more of it. They don't get enough recognition, and without them, I wouldn't be able to drive.
And what are people's reactions to it? Not just here at GBATS, but when you're at a truck stop.
I get asked if I served all the time, which I tell them no. I didn't. But they love it. They appreciate it. They wish more people would actually show support for the military. In fact, a buddy of mine, one I was telling you about, served in the Army, he keeps giving me crap about it. Give me that truck. You don't want this truck. It's white. You don't like white. No, I don't. So I seen it in 2019. I'm like, hopefully this will be my last truck. When I bought it, I already had some of the decals on it. I put a lot more on. I've added more lights and stuff like that. I'm trying to show my support and stand out so people can actually see the truck. You know, they deserve a lot more recognition than what they get. So if I can do my little part, that's all I can do, you know. I wish I could do more, but I just can't.
That was Steve Harden talking about his tribute truck. Jamie Jones joins me now. She is managing editor for Landline Magazine. Jamie, thank you for coming in.
Hey, you're welcome, Ashley.
Now, we were at GBATS together and met the two guys that we just heard from. What were your thoughts when you saw these two tribute trucks?
Well, the GBATS is always a fun experience anyway. And so I remember we rolled into town, parked the car, and literally hopped in a golf cart and took off.
Yes.
I mean,
for the whole duration of the event, pretty much.
I mean, for the 2.5, 3 days that we were there, we were hustling because there are so many great trucks. And it's funny because I remember when we rounded the corner and we saw that first one. I was driving and you were riding shotgun. And I was like, and we both kind of, and slammed on the brakes. It's like, we've got to see this truck.
Yeah.
Because you knew immediately it had all the emblems for the different branches of the armed forces and stuff. And it's like,
you know, there's a story there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, there's a story there.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, there's just never any doubt when you get to one of those. And it was funny because that one in particular, you kind of turned into the resident stalker because we couldn't track him down.
Yes. So, we'd just hop in the golf cart and do a lap around to try to, because of course these guys want to see other trucks. And so, trying to track them down can be difficult, but we did it. We persevered.
Yeah. And so, he had a really compelling story, and you always wonder what draws them into the military. What, is it a personal connection? Do they know somebody? Did they have a family member? And so getting that backstory, I think was really cool on that one. But the other one, the POW MIA, that was one we actually passed the tent where they were all sitting, hiding out in the shade, just having a good time. And we kind of slowed down and we're just chit-chatting with him. And he said, "You want to look at my truck?" And it's like, the answer's always yes.
Yes, yeah.
I mean,
the answer to that question.
Not really.
Yeah.
We're here at a truck show. We don't want to look. I mean, yes, we want to look.
Of course, yeah.
And I think you and I both, when we rounded the corner and we saw the boots and the POW MIA, it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this one, while one is very celebratory and pride, a lot of pride for the active military, this one was like, these are the people that cannot be forgotten. And you were interviewing him. You were interviewing him for the show. And he started to get choked up. I'm looking at the truck trying to take pictures. I'm starting to get choked up, and I totally left you man down. I left you to deal with that.
No worries at all. Now, this week is Truckers for Troops. Talk to me about where the money goes for that.
We have two different things we'll do. The care packages are not shoeboxes. These are big enough to serve an entire unit, so they're like 70 pounds worth of really awesome stuff, and those go to active military, so we need names and addresses. And then we also had the Veterans Community Project, which helps veterans who have returned home. They can be homeless. They can just need assistance trying to acclimate back to normal life, if you want to call it that, here in the States. Very, very good service outreach program that is going national, so it's something else that we find very important to continue to honor their service when they're home.
All right. Jamie, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Ashley.
For more information on Truckers for Troops or to donate, you can visit OOIDA.com or call 816-229-5791. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thank you for your service. It means more than you can even imagine.
I am so grateful for your sacrifice and your service. Thank you.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020. 520.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now and the annual Truckers for Troops telethon.
Thank you for your time and service and always keeping us safe.
The Veterans Community Project, like almost any organization that helps those in need out, started small with one village of tiny homes in Kansas City, Missouri. However, like any successful organization does, the project is now expanding to other cities. The first example of that can be found in Longmont, Colorado. Landline Magazine staff writer S.J. Munoz spoke with Jennifer Seybold, executive director of VCP in Longmont, about what they're doing at the site.
Yeah, so Longmont was the first expansion outside of Kansas City and really the first place that VCP started building outside of that original headquartered mission. We started a little bit differently in that we opened an outreach center first. So we have an outreach center that is for walk-in services and really have done a lot of housing navigation work through that before we actually had a village up and running. The build process has taken several years. So since 2020, we've served more than 350 veterans through outreach services. We've housed more than 80 in permanent housing. And then the build process, we will have 26 tiny homes here in Longmont when we're complete with the project. Really, that process started in 2019, but we started going vertical in 2022. We have a community center in the middle of the village, and that's where on-site case management happens for the individuals who are living at the village. Right now, we have 4 veterans who moved in. They've been there just a little over 6 weeks, so we opened up the housing side of what we do now. We'll add a couple more before the end of the year. We're hoping to add 2 more homes online. We have 22 homes standing at this point that are dried in and at various phases. 6 of them will be complete by the end of the year, with those 4 already complete. And then we're going to continue to work on fundraising to finish out our capital campaign and eventually have those 26 homes, 21 of them for individual veterans and then 5 family homes.
And then you mentioned 2020 with the outreach services. Was that kind of when the I guess the start date, so to speak, for you guys, was it in that year? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's really when we started working here in Colorado. So that was our first set of service deliveries. We've been fortunate because we got to build a lot of the local community relationships before we actually built a village. So we're already really connected with other service providers. We've had a lot of practice in working with those veterans and getting them looped into those services and knowing who works there and those kinds of things. Because a lot of what VCP does is connect people to other community organizations that are doing great work and are experts in their area. We're not the experts in everything. We do that veteran work really well, and we can work with the VA in supporting them. And then we lean on partners to fill the gaps in all those other pieces and work together.
I know it's a lot, so you don't have to go into a great detail, but just as far as the services in particular, maybe just, if you want to list a few, just what you guys do provide for the veterans that use that facility.
Sure. So outreach services really can be anything from I'm just struggling to get my veteran paperwork and struggling to connect to VA services, all the way to I am chronically unhoused and in need of housing. So, if somebody comes in immediate need and they're unhoused, we can get them some immediate support with food. We have a food bank that it's small, but allows us to do that quick, rapid response kind of stuff. So we can do a box for those who are struggling and have a home and maybe on the brink, or we can do some food that's more immediate for those that are street unhoused. We do a lot of preventionary work at outreach. So the veterans that are kind of living on the brink and at risk of homelessness and maybe just have something strange come up, like a weird medical bill or their car broke down, we do emergency assistance support. So we provide some cash support to keep them housed, so that they, are remaining stable, and then we're not having to do that much harder work of rehousing them. And then a lot of the other work that we're doing is housing navigation work. So if people come in and they are unhoused, our team is working on, can we get them a HUD-VASH voucher? Can we work with Section 8? Are they eligible for other programs where we can get them housed? And that's how we do that permanent housing work is by, navigating those various systems. If we can house somebody quickly and put them in bridge housing in the meantime, which is maybe a hotel stay, we'll do that and then get them into that permanent housing. The village is kind of reserved for individuals who need more time. And that's where people can have 2 years of transitional housing. It's very supportive, weekly case management, working on goals in a variety of areas. and an individualized plan. So it's also really individualized for that veteran. And the whole goal is to get them permanent housing ready so that then they transition successfully and can maintain that housing over time.
I know it's a big undertaking. There's a lot of services offered through this organization, but as you guys you've talked about, it's kind of a I don't want to say work in progress, but the work continues, so to speak. So just maybe kind of looking ahead. I'm not trying to fill your plate with any more than you guys already have, but at the same time, I know there's always the need for more. That's the importance of these fundraising efforts and things of that sort. So just as you guys look forward and kind of continue to grow there in Longmont, what are some of the maybe things in progress or things that you're looking at that are kind of on the checklist of things that you'd really like to offer for the veterans?
Yeah, I mean, so really, we're doing a lot of work already, and the case management is the biggest piece of that. It's not an inexpensive thing to do, obviously. Our annual operating budget is $1.5 million to offer those services and provide supportive help. We're doing a lot of looking at growing. Here in Colorado, we're a little bit spread out. We're not a city hub. It's very rural. 74% of our state is very disconnected from city services. So here we launched a mobile outreach program a year ago that's still sort of in the pilot test phase of how does this work and how can we tweak it over time. So that's something I think as we go forward, we'll define that a lot better. But that's a van that's ADA accessible that goes out to rural parts of Colorado. It gets veterans connected with services where they are. Allows us to tap in and check on them and connect them with case management. That's something I think will evolve over time, and it's an ongoing area of focus. The village, I mentioned, we did start housing people this year. It's been a long time coming. Really, we came here in 2018, and there was COVID, and the process has kind of dragged out over several years. It is our more immediate goal to complete that village next year. And that's been a challenge, too, just because of the timeline, right? Like the cost of construction supplies, materials, labor, all of that stuff grew tremendously over the last couple of years. So what we thought would, 2019 would be about a $5.5 million project is really more like $7 million at this point. So we do have about $1 million left to raise to finish that build. And that's a pretty immediate goal of ours. We want to make sure that we're providing that transitional housing in addition to all the layers of other support that we're already providing in the community.
All right, and then last thing here, I'll let you go after this, but just anything that you would like to make sure, we kind of touch on, feel free to, put that information out there, whether it be people, individuals, contact information, whatever you think, is important for your location, let us know, and we'll get that in the story as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just, knowing any veteran can reach out for support. Really, it doesn't require that you're unhoused, and oftentimes we are doing more quick navigationary work. So knowing they can walk into our outreach center or just look online and give us a call if they are in need of any support. We're here to do that at any given time. The other thing I really want to point out, and I'm sure that all of my other VCP colleagues will also point out, we don't limit what veterans we can serve. So I think oftentimes veterans question, their discharge status. If they're not eligible for VA services, they assume they're not eligible for our help, and that's not the case. We really want to provide support to fill the gaps for individuals who may not be eligible for all those other services. So we serve any veteran, regardless of their discharge status, regardless of their time in the service or their type of duty. Anyone who ever raised their right hand and took that oath is someone that we want to make sure that we're supporting.
That was Jennifer Seybold, Executive Director of VCP in Longmont, Colorado, speaking with Landline Magazine staff writer S.J. Munoz. As we've been telling you this week, the Truckers for Troops Telethon now has a two-pronged approach to giving back and giving thanks to our troops and our veterans. There's the Veterans Community Project aspect of all of this, of course, and there's also the care package part as well. That's where the Truckers for Troops campaign dedicated its focus on those early years, sending boxes of supplies to service members stationed overseas, where a little bit of home can mean the world to loved ones who are half a world away. Tracy Van Camp, Assistant Manager in OOIDA's Membership Department, knows what that's like.
I come from a family of service members, from my grandfather who was killed in World War II, to my dad who was in Vietnam, to my brother who was in Iraq, and my husband who was in Desert Storm. And I can't thank each and every one of these guys enough. for what they do for us and the ability they give to us to have our freedoms. And they sacrifice on the family line, in their personal lives, socially, and they do it all in the name of freedom.
And Van Camp's family continues to do it in the name of freedom.
My son and my son-in-law and 2 nephews are currently in the Air Force.
While they're all back stateside now, Van Camp said it's tough knowing that could change at any moment.
There's always an emotional toll.
And that's just for the loved ones of our service members. For the troops themselves, getting care packages is a morale boost, full of necessities and other items that really do make a difference.
It's amazing the things that are in those care packages, like socks, for instance. You wouldn't think that would be such a big deal, but it really is to those guys. They can't always get those small items where they're at. So it's very important that we send the things that they're requesting, not something somebody gives you a list on, but these guys actually know what they want and what they'd use.
Katie Wood, OOIDA claims adjuster, is a veteran.
So I joined in 2008, and I served for 6 years active duty. I deployed twice to Iraq. Each was a year-long tour. I got to the rank of sergeant, which is an E5. I loved it. It was a different world, but it's part of my life now, and it's something that I'll cherish and never forget.
Wood had her own experiences with care packages as well.
We looked forward to them every week. Sometimes they wouldn't come for a while just because of, the combat. It's a combat zone. You're going to get hit or miss here and there. But yeah, we had a lot of people just send us care packages, and they would write letters to us, and we'd write them back thanking them, for their support. And like you said, it was definitely a morale booster. You just didn't know what you were going to get because everything is limited over there. You don't get all your goodies that you would get in the United States. So it was nice to have that.
And Gary Wright is another OOIDA employee with military ties.
So overall, I just look, I've had 14 family members that have served or are serving now.
Wright said it's good to work for an association that thinks about our troops.
It makes me feel good that we recognize what these guys are doing out there and why they're there. Because a lot of people don't seem to know that answer to that question. But I think everyone here does.
And Marine Corps veteran Chuck Johnston, who works in OOIDA's truck support department, also comes from a military family.
Well, my brother, Jim, that was president of the association for so many years, he was in the Navy. I had 2 other brothers in the Navy. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. We all served 4 years. I got a son that works out at the Office of Naval Intelligence, and he was in the Navy for 14 years. So I have a very strong connection to the armed forces and appreciate everything they do very much.
Johnston said he's encouraged by the way OOIDA employees step up each year to help with the fundraising drive and donate to the cause themselves.
I think we all need to support our troops. They're out there fighting for us, sacrificing a lot for us, and we need to give back.
And Katie Wood's parting message in all of this? Help out if you can.
I think it would be a great cause to donate your money if you have it. I know there's a lot of, fundraisers out there. There's a lot of other projects that people do for other, homeless people, and they just give their money elsewhere. But if you could give a little to the Veterans Project, I think that would be phenomenal because I was in that situation, and we looked forward to those care packages. We looked forward to getting the things that we didn't necessarily could get our hands on at the time. And so even something just as simple as a good deodorant or good shampoo, just anything, anything that you can donate, they would greatly appreciate it. Nothing is too small.
I just want to give you all a heartfelt thank you for what you will do for all of us. And we think of you, we care about you, we love you, and we so appreciate you.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to Landline Now. Votes were cast across the country this week, and a number of transportation questions were on the ballot. Joining us to break down which issues passed and which didn't is our returning champion, Keith Goebel. Keith is the state legislative editor at Landline Magazine, and he stays on top of all of this 24/7. Keith, good to see you.
Scott, I appreciate the build-up. I just hope I don't let folks down.
Never. We do have lots to get to here today, though, Keith, and we won't get to all these ballot measures, obviously, that were on ballots across the country here, but we'll do our best here with some of the highlights, and we'll start in Maine with an interesting topic, I think, and one we've heard more and more about in recent years, this right to repair law idea. Maine voters had their say on this, and looks like they passed it.
Yeah, and Maine looking to become the second state to adopt a right to repair law, Massachusetts being the first state. But and I think we talked about it here in recent months, the complications that have occurred in Massachusetts to get that thing actually implemented. But in Maine, hopeful that they won't have the similar issues as Massachusetts. Voters approved. I don't have the percentage with me, but it was really fairly overwhelming support for a right to repair law to be implemented. As it is now, vehicle manufacturers not being required to provide diagnostic and repair information to vehicle owners, nor to independent repair businesses. So necessary information for maintenance and repairs is limited to those authorized dealerships, which was the reason why this question was brought up, to provide vehicle owners and independent repair shops access to that information. Makes sense, as far as being a consumer, being able to have access to that information and or more readily access to that information. But, for those who were opposed to it, there were, the chief concerns being listed as information being hacked, just data security type stuff. But yeah, voters approved it. So there in the state of Maine, shortly, the anticipation will be that they'll have that information available again for the vehicle owner and independent repair shops.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it passed overwhelmingly, considering this is an idea of giving the consumer, someone who owns the product, more freedom, more control over how and when, I suppose, these things are fixed. We've seen this with phones as well, smartphones. Trucks, obviously, a huge part of this one as well.
Yeah, right to repair. I mean, there's a handful of states that have laws on the books that allow access, more access to data, but specifically for vehicles. Again, Massachusetts being the first, as they're still working through that, Maine being the second. We will see in the not too distant future what other states do, trying to pursue the same thing.
And we've seen, I think, the federal government look at this issue as well. So, yeah, something we'll be talking about, I'm sure, more and more over the coming months and years. Let's move on from Maine there to Texas now, where voters were asked about tapping bonds for transportation projects. Looks like, for the most part, and maybe completely here, these passed, right?
Yeah, it is worth knowing, and we're probably not going to get through everything that I covered here recently as far as questions around the country, whether they be state, county, or some of the larger cities across the nation that had transportation questions. By and large, they just about all were approved, and that is the case in Texas. These 4 counties, Collin, Parker, Travis, and Williamson counties. They had questions on their ballot, again, as you mentioned, to use bonds for transportation projects. Combined, those 4 Texas counties, they're looking to have voters approve more than $1.5 billion worth of transportation work. And, voters, they're definitely in favor of it, which is often the case.
Yep.
Hey, if you're going to have something that's going to benefit transportation, roads, bridges, folks want that. So yet again, we see voters willing to, again, in this case, use bonds to get work done.
Even passing these measures, even when the federal government, obviously with the infrastructure law, pumping billions and billions and billions of dollars into projects nationwide. It just strikes me that we're going to see a lot of projects over the coming years because of that money, because of, again, these measures that we're talking about today. You're going to see a lot of orange cones, but the good news here is that there will be improvements coming with those cones down the line. Kind of segueing into our next topic here, Minnesota. Two cities there, pretty big cities, had a local sales tax question on the ballot there as well.
Cities you probably heard of, St. Paul and Rochester there. Both looking to have voters authorize a local sales tax or an extension. In the case of Rochester, they've had a local sales tax, a half-cent tax in place since 1983. And they've been coming up on the sunset date for that, unless, they were to be able to get voters to extend it. And that was the question that voters approved. There in Rochester is an extension through 2040 for this local half-cent tax. Part of the money is going for roads. Overall, the tax is estimated to raise more than $200 million, specifically for road reconstruction there in the city. They're going to get, over the course of that time, $50 million. In St. Paul, they have a 1% local sales tax looking to get approved for 20 years. And with that, there's $1 billion amount that the tax will raise. Almost 3/4 of that will be going for road repairs, improving streets and bridges there throughout the city of St. Paul. Worth noting, this tax, if you're visiting St. Paul, is it's not going to be collected on food. They don't collect it on clothing or other essential items. So it isn't an across-the-board sales tax, but of course there are some purchases that the tax will be applied to.
So measures passing there, measures also in Georgia passing in, I think, 5 counties right there as well, either authorizing or renewing a 1% tax to be used solely for local infrastructure projects. A party pooper, though, amongst our midst here, actually in our backyard, Jackson County, Missouri, where voters actually voted down a measure that would have gone toward road funding, I believe.
Yeah, the lone locale that I was following that voters rejected a proposal that would benefit roads. This particular case, in Jackson County, wanting to establish a new use tax in the amount of just a little over 1%. Transportation would have benefited to some extent. But something that voters throughout Jackson County, which we're talking about including Kansas City, weren't interested in adding an additional tax to what they're already paying. So I think about a third of the amount the tax would have raised would have gone for road and bridge construction throughout the county, and it would have included work in cities as well, not just county projects, but essentially any and all projects throughout the county. There would have been a portion of it going for roads, but again, in the end, voters just weren't quite willing to take on some additional tax in this case.
Lots of ballot measures this time around on Election Day 2023. Of course, we got a big election year next year, which I know you're already probably gearing up for here with a lot of questions coming down the pike. Any quick words of wisdom for us here as we, creep up on that?
Stay tuned. That is something that we'll definitely be hitting on
a lot
very quickly after the start of the new year when folks start trying to get questions, transportation questions, added again to a huge ballot, the presidential ballot.
Keith, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's all the time we have for you today. As always, we thank you for tuning in and hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, check out landline.media for all the latest news out of the trucking industry. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife.
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
Chrome. And I am a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.